Hey there! My channel name is Lucas Morrow, but that's more of an alias. It's like a version of the name of one of my characters for this story. Um, and I'm working on an RPG for mainly myself. Just kind of a project that I had a idea of and wanted to see visualized. It is a blend of kind of like free roaming RPG like early Game Boy Advance Legend of Zelda and Stardew Valley and but also with combat influenced by the Fire Emblem series, which I will get to in a moment. But for right now, I thought I'd walk you through my basic setup that I've got going here. My cliff art is a work in progress. Drawing cliffs is hard. So this is, in my main scene, I've got starting to lay out the basics of the world. This one, the game is called Fallen, and it involves angels and demons. So you will start out as an angel in heaven, and then later on, as the game progresses, certain actions you take have the chance of making you fall and become a demon instead. And so the combat will engage with a war and things like that. So over here we've got our player character, and then I've popped an NPC in here just to test collisions, interactions, and some basic pathfinding for the NPC to walk around. So far he only walks to one spot. But yeah, and then I've got some animated waterfall, and then heaven is going to be a series of floating islands in the sky, which I've got a tile set of over here. So then if we go into our play mode, so this is the main world that I'm using to test. This is Tutorial Island. I don't have collision shapes set up on some of my scenery yet. I've got it on the top of the cliffs, but not the actual cliffs themselves. That art is still a work in progress, honestly. I've got collisions on the trees, and then I've got the NPC I dropped in here to work on testing collision shapes and stuff. So if we come up to him, he'll have a little icon saying we can interact with him, and he has some dialogue, and he says, "Hello there, welcome to my attempt at a tutorial island zone." I say, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? Nope. Well, neither do I. This dialogue system is the best I can do for now. At least it's functional. Maybe. But yeah, and if we talk to him again, he'll just repeat now that we've already talked to him. This is a very basic dialogue system that took me forever to get going. Just don't talk to me about dialogue. Moving forward, I'm going to be using a dialogue system add-on by Nathan Hode, his dialogue manager, which has a lot more functionality than my pathetic attempt. Naturally, I went straight for the most complicated feature of the game to attempt to implement right off the bat. So yeah, don't do that. So the real fun is coming in over here, where I'm working on the combat system. So this is grid-based combat, tactical RPG, and I followed GD Quest's tutorial to set up the pathfinding, and so if you come into my game board, I've got all of that rigged up. So mainly it handles the grid, the idea of the grid. It handles recognizing the units, calculating their telling them when to move. It lets you know if something is if there's an obstacle in the way, so you cannot move there. It does the flood fill to show how far you can move, and it also has a flood fill to show how far you can attack, which is different, and that has the unit attack range. And then coming down here, shows what happens when you click on a unit. And then what will happen when you walk. And then down here, this is hooked up to my UI, which will have different actions that you can take, such as wait or attack. And when you choose to attack, you will get just the attack cells that you can reach, not the flood fill, which is the combination of how far you can walk and how far you can attack within that entire range. But yeah, when you click attack, you will get just the specific cells that you can reach. And some of that's handled here. This is probably not the most efficient way to do this, but it's working. Which, I'm a beginner programmer. We learn eventually. So yeah, going back to the main map. So the tile map is handling the just basic background with the grass, and then the attack overlay is in red. And then the unit overlay that just shows how far you can walk is in kind of this yellow. And then the unit path draws an arrow. Then the enemy units I can move around to place for right now. I haven't done much with enemies yet. They don't have AI or anything, they can't move. And then the obstacles are just rocks. All they do is block your way so that you can't move there, but you cannot interact with them either. And then the battle UI is this. It has a couple moves so far, and I think down here it will have I'll add like a label that will add information based on which character you have selected, like their stats and stuff like that. So our 4 options right now are attack, which will allow you to select an enemy to attack, items, items in diplomacy aren't rigged up yet, but items, you'll be able to select something to heal or to change your weapon. And diplomacy, in Fire Emblem, one of the elements I really like is being able to talk to specific enemies and convince them to join your side. And this will do something similar, except it will spawn a dialogue in which you have to choose the correct responses to convince that enemy to join your side. And that may be harder depending on what kind of relationship you built with the character in the free roaming world. If they don't like you, then you might not be able to convince them at all, and they may just attack you instead. And then wait will just place the character without doing anything further. And then the units are here in the turn queue, which isn't working right now. I don't have I can't change from unit phase to enemy phase, but that's coming in the future, so I just have it there as a reminder. The units, again, I can position them somewhere else on the map to start. So I've got one over here and one over here. If we come into the actual battle scene, this is where things start getting interesting. So I've got a cursor selection that, follows your mouse so that you can choose different characters. Nothing happens if you click on an enemy or an object, but if you click on one of your characters, you will get their flood fill range. So the pale yellow-red is how far you can move, and then the red border in it and any red inside is what you can attack, but you cannot travel to the outer line attack zones. You will just be able to reach them when, say, you move here. And if you click attack, it will show you what squares you can attack, and you can also change your mind and move somewhere else in your original move range, but you cannot cheat and escape your move range and like creep your way around the board. Yeah, that's not a thing. So if we move back here, we can attack. Actually, I'll just wait with that one. With this character, we can make a couple moves, and we'll attack this enemy. And so the attack scene is what I'm working on getting set up, because this is a little complicated. If you see the enemy up here, this is, I need to fix its spawn position. It's supposed to appear down here in the actual battle scene. So yeah, so for now, I've got some placeholders with health bars, and I've got a start button so that it actually loads the stats data, because I was having some trouble getting it to recognize it on start. So if we click start, and I have to click it twice because, again, I'm fiddling with some things. So it'll load the specific enemy that we clicked on, their data, and it will also load the character's data. And now we can attack. And when the enemy's health reaches 0, that'll stop. But then if we come to this enemy and attack this one, again, fiddling with things, to reset it, so I have to click that a couple times, again, as a placeholder. But this enemy has 25 health instead, because it has a different package attached to it. And so if we attack him, nothing happens when our health reaches 0 currently, because I haven't done that yet. But we can keep attacking until the enemy's health reaches 0, and I've not rigged up for them to delete themselves from the world yet for you to actually defeat them. So we can just keep attacking. Yeah. And the different characters have different move ranges. Like, so this little floating wing feather thing can move pretty far, but our walking character can only move a short distance. And flying character, I should also make able to fly over obstacles. That's a future thing, which I think that'll be fairly easy to rig up, depending on the character. So yeah, that's what's happening currently. That's what functionality I have in the attack scene. So to get the information from the unit, we've got our blank unit template here, which in our main one, this is, I haven't renamed them, but they are an instance of this scene with some edits made to them. And so they've got a specific move range that we can change. We cannot change it to a negative. I'll up it to 3, because 2 has been kind of annoying. And then they've got an attack range, so this can only attack 1 space. And then they also carry a packed scene with them, which will hold the information for their battle scene, which I can find. So yeah, so this is the blank template for the battle unit, which is part of the combat scene. And this carries their stats, which is held in a resource, which currently I've just got. I haven't done anything with defense yet, but that will affect the strength. Right now affects how many points you deal. Speed doesn't do anything yet, but it will affect your dodge rate. Defense will obviously defend you, and then your health. And then I've got just like a placeholder name for what class this is. And then within the job unit, I've got the stats script, which handles all of this. So yeah, so for the battle interface to work, it has to acquire it has to find the nodes that are carrying that information. So it finds the job node. This is again something I learned from GDQuest. So it's finding this, it's accessing the stats saved to it. And so the issue I'm running into is that when it enters the scene in the game board, so the game board handles instancing it. So when you attack, it acquires the information from the active unit, which again doesn't exist on the start of the game because you haven't clicked on a unit yet. So active unit becomes a thing when you click on a unit. And so when you decide to attack, it will deposit an instance of its battle unit into the it will instance a battle unit. It will add this battle interface scene to the overall world and start it up. And it will then add the instance of the battling units into the proper location in the new battle so that it can access that stats data. However, the problem with this, besides this get node being inefficient, and it's doing the same thing for the enemy, the problem with this is that in our battle interface script, it's trying to find these nodes immediately, and it doesn't register them as existing before. It doesn't register them as existing at the same time as it enters the scene and gets its new children added. So I've got some things to let me know where it's having problems when it's registering that they exist. So I've currently got some of these functions commented out because they don't work if they're in the ready function. So instead, my workaround for right now while I work on this is to have the start button, which will then be able to access the, so when you press the start button, then it recognizes that it has new children in the YSort node. And then this stats registering will work properly. So I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. And my other interesting problem that I'm running into is that, well, currently there's no carryover of the stats. So when the scene disappears, the stats don't save, really. Or they don't save properly. So like when you start attacking the player, information does not carry over, and neither does the enemy information because they're not held anywhere besides in this particular battle scene instance. So that's something I'm working on.